Inhale up. Breathe it big. Exhale down. In. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. And on this exhale, sigh out. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale up. Exhale, sigh out. Last one. Inhale up. Exhale, let it out. Keep breathing on your own.
Anybody parked in the back of your car, like on the street? And other than that, yeah, full house. So, Jake does a lot about tea and all the best times, and I've had an incredible experience serving tea, and so I wanted to share that with you all. Because you mentioned wanted to share some stories as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, first off, thank you for having me, and thank you for wanting to share this with others. It's really meaningful to have this space of people that are focused on the same thing, and having integration as one of our core values here is super important, because we can do all the experiences and make all the mistakes and live all this life, but if we're not properly integrating that, you're just going to chase something. You don't want to be here chasing anything. You want to be present. And in order to be present, we need to stop chasing things. And I find it's a pandemic almost within the holistic community of people who go to their medicines too often. And I find that the medicine is to prepare ourselves to be our own medicine, which is part of the journey here. So I want to ask first, who would like to experience caffeine? I'll leave your cup right up next to you. I know you're a 1 for sure. Yes. You were a caffeiner? Of course. I'm giving it completely out of order. There's no order to this. It's all chaos. That's part of the point. There doesn't have to be an order. So while I serve up those who still want caffeine, you get to enjoy the fact that you get a bigger cup than everybody else. If you get to the bottom of your cup, I please encourage you, make a motion towards me. I'd love to continue serving and continue filling your cup, because I definitely have plenty. The water that we're drinking is actually rainwater that has been filtered and boiled. And we get to thank the universe for all the rain that we've been having lately. Oh, of course. Caffeine all the way around? Perfect. There is absolutely a non-caffeine option. This is caffeine. Yes. This is actually a puree tea that has pistachios in it.
There's always possible ingredients in the tea. Last time we had a rosebud tea.
I'm actually going to make you guys one of my favorite teas ever today.
It was so heart-opening.
Would you like caffeine? Yes. Oh yeah, I'm going to make the next batch. I'm going to just trust you guys to be adults, and whoever wants more, you guys can just sit around.
Thanks, sir.
That is, yes, Gold Pod is always going to be caffeine for me. So everybody say, I love you, water. Anybody raise your hand to know why we say that to the water?
Water.
Does anybody know Dr. Emoto? Does anybody not know Dr. Emoto? So there's a Japanese scientist who did studies on water, and one of the studies that he did was looking and examining the ice crystals that formed in water that you said I love you to, versus water that had negative connotation words said and spoken at it. And the water molecules were so much more beautiful for all the water that was said I love you, and they were very chaotic looking and formation wise in the ones that had the negative connotations. So for me, our bodies are made out of water. So I love you all, and I want to imbue you with this because it's very meaningful. And if you don't know, I would definitely check out Dr. Emoto's work. It'll change your life. And I'm here to bring the blending of all the philosophies and the spiritualities with science. I did 3 years of engineering school. Calculus 3 made sense to me. And in order to communicate to you what that looks like in my head, is we're literally all made of stardust. And we got to remember that. So all of the elements are here on this tea table. We have earth, wind, air, and fire. Earth, air, fire, and water with us today. And we get to bring acknowledgement to the 5th element in Eastern philosophy, which is ether. It's our spirit that we bring to the table today. And the fire is what heats the water. The water is the most obvious of all of the elements. But what we're here today to talk about is the earth, the plant medicine. And tea is a form of plant medicine that most people forget. But all the other plant medicines, they come from this bountiful place. And I think there's a lot of times where we don't give it as much respect as we should. It's a fun thing. And while we should be definitely inviting joy into our life through these medicines, that's why I'm really excited to hear what you all have to share about integration, because I have always been very careful with how I practice plant medicine, and knowing there's an intention behind it, there's a reason behind it, there's something I want to get out of it. Even if it's surrender, that's still something you want to receive. And it's just something that I want to receive with you all here today. It's a space of surrender and a space of love. And with that, I will pass the mic over to you, and you can share anything you'd like. And I'm just going to say, if you want, this will be for the live feed. So it's not like it's playing through a speaker. And anybody who wants to share, too, we can pass around. I'm not over here. That's correct. But if you want 2 people sharing and having a level of conversation, I'm happy to pass the mic around so other people can tune in. Also know that anything that you're sharing, if you don't have the mic on, will not be here. So if you want to share something more personal and you'd like to know we're on live, please don't want to be shared. Feel free to share anyway. My live feed will pick up the mics.
Awesome. Thank you, Jacob.
Yeah, thank you all for having me. Thank you all for being here.
Where's the light people?
I'm on YouTube, and I'm happy to share you the link to my Steeping Sensei business YouTube.
Okay.
Awesome. Cool. So let's go ahead and pass these around. This is just so that we're all on the same page and talking about the same things.
Two together the packet.
Yeah, it's 2 pages each. Sorry, they're not stapled. Yeah.
Everybody do your assignment. We have a test on Friday. Get ready.
I think it might be the perfect amount.
Oh, I think it's you have 1 page?
2 pages each.
Everybody has 2 pages? Okay, cool.
Here, Jake, we'll share one.
That's fine. I don't need that. Yeah, this one. Part.
Yeah. Okay, thank you all for being here. Yeah, go ahead.
I forgot. The next tea I'm making is my most favorite tea in the entire world, and it is almond cinnamon tea. So you guys who are not drinking that for days, I've been chasing this tea for 3.5 years. I literally passed the container around so you all can smell it. I kept the empty container of tea for 3 years just to smell it.
Yeah. So, integration. When I was thinking about how to start today's discussion, today's chat, I I had to ask for how to start it. And I had to go back to a year before, in August of last year, when I had an experience that I didn't know how to integrate. And I spent many months stumbling and fumbling through it, hoping and wishing that someone would tell me what we're about to discuss now. And don't get me wrong, I had facilitators, I had people in my life, I had the community. But it wasn't the same as someone telling you, hey, go journal, go be outside, as to the difference of, here's how you know you're doing it right. Here's what it's supposed to look and feel like. And the reason that's so difficult is because it looks and feels differently for everyone. No one can tell us how to integrate. You have to decide how to integrate that experience for yourself. And so for that reason, it takes a lot of reflection and introspection, and probably sitting down by yourself for a little while and facing some things that take some work and take some intentionality to face. And without that intentionality, without that effort into it, it's easy to be forgotten with life. It's easy to just go on to the next day, and weeks pass, months pass, and we're still on that same lesson we haven't integrated. So as I was structuring today's conversation, I had to start there. That this is part of my integration as well, through that experience that I had. One of the final stages of that integration is community, is giving back, is contributing. So with that, I just wanted to give us a little bit of structure around the conversation so that we're all talking about the same thing. And then from there, I hope to hear from our panelists today, and then have a conversation and share ideas, share experiences, and community. So going through it, integration has lots of definitions. But for today, let's think of integration as getting all of those parts of ourselves and bringing them back to the whole. And the part that I found most exciting about all of those definitions of integration that we can find, there are many, there are dozens, everyone has a different definition. The part that I found most exciting was having actionable steps. It's the process of developing actionable steps for ourselves. Because we come out of an experience and we may not have an actionable step, or maybe we have one really big actionable step, but it can leave us maybe floating or not quite sure of how to make sense of that. So integration through the self-reflection and through the facing of it can give us those steps. A few notes about it. As we did mention, we don't want to return to the medicine before it's time, or before we're ready. There are certain more gentle modalities like breath work that can keep us returning to our lessons without having to go through a whole other journey. And so for that reason, we might recommend something like that as opposed to going through a whole other lesson. But once we do get the message, it's important to hang up the phone. And that's been a huge theme along a lot of the work that I found, was once you have the message, now it's time to do the work. And yeah, so moving on, it's supposed to be a totally natural process. As we have these experiences, it's natural to integrate them. We want to go out and make those little changes. And what we have to do is let that happen, get out of the way, get things out of the way so that that inner child can dance in the living room. And it takes a little bit of effort sometimes to move that couch over and to make sure that everything's in line so that they can dance freely. But sometimes that's exactly what they need to do, what we need to do. Integration is not a passive process. It's not something, especially with, let's say, the way we live now, or a lot of the patterns that we might be in, that we feel we need to integrate out of. Integration is not a passive process. It's something that can take some intentionality and some effort, and usually can take some effort for a little while, a few months, 6 months. That experience that I had a year ago, I was in the thick of it, in a, let's call it a depression spiral for the sake of like a visual, for about 3 months, where nothing made sense. I didn't want to hang out with my friends. I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to do anything, because I was so deep in the experience that I had to integrate. For that, it was really important for me to have some, what we're talking about, some action items, some things that I could go do to help ease that anxiety and ground out the experience that I was having. This can take a while. People often talk about ayahuasca journeys and say, I'm going to be integrating that experience for the rest of my life. So it's not, you might never be done integrating. And that's important as well. I was mentioning too, I was telling Brian one time that this can be a lot like hygiene. Like we brush our teeth every morning. Integration can, you have to mentally brush your teeth sometimes. You have to mentally, scrub that stuff out. And Angie, I'm sure, can speak to this later. There are practices we can do, daily practices, weekly practices that we can do to stay in touch, to stay attuned. Yes, Jake?
Brushing of teeth. I've heard the saying, so motivation is speaking in passes, like shower, motivation is recognizing daily, inspiration. That's what this inspiration creates inspiration.
Thanks, Jake. So I didn't put this together, I just kind of got all of the best notes of each stage and put it into the 7 stages of integration. And the purpose of that is to give us a sense of structure around the integration. This happens naturally. Most of us will go through this and we'll recognize ourselves in the stages. But again, we want to facilitate that for ourselves. We want to make sure that it's easy and that we can have a sense of, oh, okay, I am doing this right. I am surfing this wave correctly. This is kind of the direction I should be in, let's say. And then at the very end, we have what I found super helpful for myself is integrating looks and sounds like all of these things. And then at the end, let's say a year ahead or 6 months ahead, whatever the time frame is, you know that you've integrated, quote unquote, because of these things. It's feeling peace, harmony, etc. You feel, and at the very end, stage 7 is a part of that, is translation and service. It's like, how do you want to give that back? And how do you want to embody that so that you can share it? So before we dive in, anybody have any comments, questions, concerns, any shares? Okay. Sure. Thanks.
So, integration process is different for everyone. Are available to help and support to facilitate that integration. The number one tool is always community and authenticity. I just want to share that we can be so deeply in that space of anxiety or depression or hiding from our community, and what feels like the right thing to do is just sometimes that's the exact opposite.
Totally.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I used to go to alcoholism, and I used to go to AA. I used to go to meetings, better with veterans. It's different. Here we talk about certain things that most people don't understand. And it's same thing. You get to share things, you get to hear things from other people's perspectives, and it's every day for every day. And it was important to go to AA to not drink. And I stopped going because I was relapsed. And now I'm just in, depression cycle, and I'm about to go on a journey soon. So super stoked for, and I hope it works. I hope I can fit in my shitty band. But we'll see,
Are you just in your car in a road trip?
Yeah, great. To go there, myself, and just try to find this is a couple months down the road. It's got a pretty good job. So a couple months down the road, fix up the band a little bit, get a little band on toast. But yeah, Grand Canyon, just to be with myself and find myself, because I've done ayahuasca, I've done all, and it's just, it's keeping me up to date and define me. I need to forgive myself for the things that I've done that I think are so horrible. And I'm not a bad person, you know. I know that. I know in my heart of hearts, I know I'm a good person, and I love, you know, I love, and I want to spread love, but I just have such a negative energy inside that I can't express the love that I have. And as much as I want, I mean, if it's carried out, you know, sometimes like, most of the times I'm not. Most of the time I'm really not. I'm hateful. I just want to be alone. And there's no reason for that, to be honest with you. I've done things that I wish I didn't do, but it was under the command of the government, you know. And I didn't even know what I was doing. I was a kid, you know. And you know, it's just really hard to forgive myself for a lot of things. And even with the ayahuasca journey, I mean, LSD, like, makes me feel great, it makes me think wonderful things. And then integration. I forget about the integration. Like, okay, I'm doing it. I have this good mindset. And it lasts for a few days, maybe a few weeks, whatever, how long it lasts. And like this past time, it lasted maybe a couple days, you know. And I did the breath work, and that lasted a couple days. And everything you just lasts a couple days. Once you do this work. So this work is very important. And I'm going to be grateful for all you.
Thanks, Brian.
I was just going to ask you, what's your name? Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, Brian, let me start by saying that I've known you about a couple months now. I have a pretty decent read on people. I understand that you have challenges. I think everybody has challenges, but I can speak and say that you're not a bad person. You shouldn't think that you hold a lot of negative energy. Sometimes we just have to practice holding positive energy. As you were talking really quick, I was looking at stage 3. It's like sometimes even holding joy and holding positivity is overwhelming. We think that only negative emotions are overwhelming, but sometimes the opposite is true too. You have to practice holding that space for positive emotions too. And yeah, we've talked about that, you know. Yeah, we can have a great experience and feel so inspired, and we want to make all those changes, but the body's stubborn and the ego is stubborn and our patterns are stubborn. You ever go back into your room after, you know, and it's like, well, why did I put that there? Why did I do this? And all of that comes back to you as well. And it's easy to just kind of sit down in that wiring and not make those little changes.
Like Jake was saying, Jason's always on the hunt, you know, always, and most of the time it's not, you know, just going places that I don't need to go, but I go there anyway. It's very crazy, you know, just constantly being on alert and on, so it's so stop searching because the answers are I already have the answers. I've already seen the body, creator, and I love him, her, whatever it is, you know. Like I said, the answers are already in, so I'm grateful for that. So I stress that chase.
Yeah.
Just real like something to just to get out of myself. Just escape. Escape like it's just one. Escape.
Well, I would say in this short time that I met you, and it's like, you have the truth I love. So obviously there's so many parts of you that is loving and joyous and happy, and it's almost like maybe we should put that routine from that AA experience going every day and create something for you every day. You know, like it's something so small that we have to do, and that's just like an inspiration. I mean, sometimes I just brush my teeth. I'm like, oh, you're so awesome, you're so great, but that's intentional. And it's me reminding me that I'm worthy of love, that I'm awesome, I'm great, I'm powerful, I'm strong, that I have things that I wanted more because I'm a good person. Sometimes in life we chase that feeling to convince others that we're good and we don't believe that ourselves. So I had to keep on reminding myself of that. Because guess what? Everyone around you have things that they're not proud of. Like we all have past. I've done some nasty things, I've said some hurtful things, and to the people that we love the most. And that was heavy on everyone, right? So just making sure that you reaffirm who you are and remind yourself and replace that. So not that don't do, if you want to do the AA, you can, but making sure you have something like a ritual for yourself is really gonna help you. And that's gonna build a muscle, and over time, you're really gonna believe that. So maybe that's something on your trip that you can look forward to, like forcing yourself to say, do 15 minutes. I have to do 3 different exercises for 5 minutes because I have like ADHD. I can't, it's like, I have so many things to do, but I can put lotion on my body for 5 minutes after a shower, which I'm only gonna do. Say, you know what, my body deserves some love. I deserve some lotion, or sometimes I just dance randomly, like I'm waiting for my coffee to heat up. Okay, I'm gonna move my body. I look freaking stupid in the kitchen sometimes, you know, but it's me forcing myself to be embodied to practice things that make me feel happy. And you have to find things that make you happy and make you feel expansive. So I hope that vision for you.
We've touched on rituals and habits twice now. I learned a lot about those rituals and habits from Angie. Would you like to share? Do you have any thoughts on that so far?
Just in general, and yeah, so having daily rituals is a non-negotiable practice for myself. And I noticed a difference in my life when I wasn't doing these practices for myself. And it's one of the first things that I teach all of my students and clients that come into my office is having practices that you do every day that are small enough that it doesn't feel so big unless you want to invest the time or you have space for the devotion for yourself, because really that's what it is you're creating this bhakti for yourself, and each one of those practices is a devotion to your connection to yourself, to your intuition, to spirit, to your guides, to your purpose work. It's all of the different things. I wanted to reflect with Brian too that something really powerful could be including these practices, but is coming up with some power statements or some truth statements for yourself so that you're reprogramming.
You said true statements?
Truth statements, where you're bringing in another thing that you can say to yourself when you fall into the patterns of anger or saying hurtful things to yourself or hateful things to yourself. It's giving yourself a mantra or something else like that isn't my truth, or I am good, or I'm not hateful, I'm love. Hate is not my truth. So that you're telling all of your being, you're telling your cells all of those negative things over and over again.
Constantly.
Right. So if you can, and I call that the broken records, right? Because it's like skipping like a broken record, and it's just bouncing around in the room. It's not going out and making any shift for yourself. So you're just reinforcing the thing that you don't want and that you are not. So one of the things that the daily practice is the prayer of protection. And it's not coming from a place that we're not already protected or coming from a place of fear. It's really coming into your first stop in the day is your hands on your own body, exchanging energy with yourself. And the divine, powerful healing energy that each one of us has within ourselves, you're redirecting that to yourself before you get out of bed. So 5 breaths or for the length of a song. I always, in my prayer of protection, I'm always, the non-negotiables are calling in divine source energy, universal energy, God's energy, Christ energy, whatever you feel connected to, and calling in my guidance team. So my guides and angels that are with me. And yeah, I mean, that's how I start. That's how I start every single day, and that's how I finish every single day. I'm connecting in, just like those lamps are really beautiful when they're plugged in and they're not lit up. But if they are turned on, then they illuminate in a different way. And so when we're connecting first thing to that energy, then we're illuminating from the start of our day, and then we're bringing that with us throughout the day, and we're finishing our day by thanking those energies, the light, and then we're calling in the restoration, and we're calling in light and angels or whoever you want. You can use deities, you can use saints, you can bring Jesus, whatever you feel called to do. The elements, trees, flower essence, whatever your connection is.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that play into your client's integration?
Yes. Can I reflect on a couple of things you already shared about? In my experience, I've been doing this work for a very long time, and I've been working with people who have come through trauma, veterans and people in rehab centers, and also therapies. Have a lot of therapist clients that come and work with me doing energy healing and coaching, and also people who are coming through plant medicine, breath work, sound bath. All of these things can put us in trauma response. And if you come out of these experiences and you're not connected to a practitioner who really can hold space and understand what that looks like, people are walking around in the street in trauma response. I can't tell you how many of my clients that I've had over the last 10 years who come to me from going and doing ayahuasca or breath work. I've had a handful of clients that did breath work with sound healing, and they had psychotic breaks because they had predisposition to mental illness and they didn't know. So they're walking around in a trauma response, which can lead to these spirals, and it can literally lead you to really dark places, but also like you're not in your body. You're up in the ethers, you're completely checked out, you're driving around, and going in this situation like you, where you're a veteran, PTSD, and coming out of that experience in trauma response and not being able to fully land, which is where the drinking comes in, because you're trying to ground your body, and then you're trying to do all the other things that happen with substance abuse.
Yeah.
So that is one thing that I have noticed over my years, is that first key is recognizing the symptoms of being in trauma response. Is the person grounded, or is their eyes focused? Are they talking normally? Are they up here all the time? Can they sit still? Like really helping people to find some grounding practices right off the bat, like feet on the ground. Things like that are really helpful to also ascertain if somebody is in that, or if you are in that. I know that in my first plant medicine journey, I was in trauma response, and I've been doing this for 30 years and didn't realize that I myself was in trauma response until one of my best friends, who's a practitioner, was like, you're in trauma response, you're not even feeling your feet. And until she said those words, I didn't realize I was walking around and not feeling my feet for 5 days. Like I had no sensation in my feet. So there's so many elements to this integration that in the beginning parts of it is if we're not fully landed back in our body from the medicine, and we don't have people around us that can recognize that and really hold space and help us to understand, like, hey, let's go take a walk, or go outside and get your feet on the ground, lay down on the ground and breathe. So I'm sorry, I'm taking up a lot of time. So yeah, there's that is a really big element of things that I notice when people come to me. The other thing is integration can be really hard for a lot of people, especially right now, because we're doing things so fast. Social media is so fast. Conversations are so fast. Our visits with our friends, we have to get from here to there. Like we're speeding everything up for ourselves, that we're not taking the time to just sit and feel something, or be with something, or be with someone, right? We're just moving on so fast that we're not having that basic presence of being together and feeling. And that is a big thing with integration is it takes as long as it takes, like taking the time to stop, taking the time to process, taking the time, like Jake says, so many people just going to all these medicine ceremonies. I had my first like ceremonial plant medicine 5 years ago, and I'm still integrating things in that first ceremony. And I've had many other ceremonies that facilitated since then, many ceremonies, but there's still nuggets popping up all the time from all of those things. So, and you know, I feel medicine calls us, right? But if we're not doing those integrated things or finding our ways into practices and rituals that help us to get back into ourselves and into our internal connection, then that's where a lot of issues happen with drugs and escaping and running from yourself or running to something else outside of yourself.
Thank you. One thing I wanted to mention was we had a session a few weeks back, mini session, and I remember I'm back. I'm now up sitting on the mat. I'm just about getting ready to get in my car and drive home, and Angie's looking at me like, "You're not back yet." She's almost stopped me. You're not back. Land the plane. Yeah, I thought I was back. To me, I thought I was back. But it was very clear to you when, as we're looking at each other, you're like, no, let's get some more oils, let's get some more stuff going. And I thought it was so interesting how like you're talking about, we might be walking around in trauma. We might be walking around thinking our plane's landed when really
we're not. No, you're not on the target.
Yeah.
Can I ask what your session was? Like, what do you do?
I'm a shamanic intuitive healer and a psychic medium. I teach a training called The Art of Decoding Your Gifts, where I teach people how to connect to their spiritual gifts, their intuition, their psychic gifts, and also I teach energy techniques that I've been using my whole life. I'm a trained Reiki practitioner, but I've been doing the energy work that I do since I was 6. So I teach holding space, right? Because even if somebody doesn't do something in the healing office, you're still holding space throughout the day in different ways, right? In that particular day, I have a student. I usually do the training in group settings, and I have one student who had a really hard time in one of my trainings being in the group. So I've done a few one-on-one trainings, and part of the training is the practice. You get to play and practice all these really amazing, powerful things with other people. So I asked Julio if he would come in and practice some of these energy techniques and also some of the mediumship and psychic stuff. It's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so fun. So he came in and he was like the guinea pig. Yeah, it was fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, I have something to say about now that how you explain medicine and stuff in Peru. In Peru, when we do any type of plant medicine, we do it where the plant medicine is being made. But the thing is, the shaman doesn't let you do anything until you integrate your diet, your energy, and you have to, like, I think, 12 steps that they do and alcoholics. Before you enter medicine, you have to make amends because you don't know.
Prepare your mind, your body, and soul.
So you have to and in my culture, my mom is from the mountains. When you're 12, they take you to the jungle or the mountains, depending what medicine you're gonna take. And actually, the medicine called you don't call the medicine. So for example, if you go to the jungle, you have to go for 2 weeks. But towards the end of your plan, let's say like that 10 day, you go like for a walk. And so the jungle is gonna tell you if you're ready for the medicine. Because it will show you obstacles to get to the medicine or not.
Yeah.
Or will have clean cut.
Interesting.
Yeah, but integration is really important for them to give.
What's your name?
Yeah,
Lola, nice to meet you.
Can you tell us about some of those integration practices? We're hearing the before. Is there anything after?
oh, yeah. So the before will be right, like I said, you clean your diet. You only eat fruits and veggies, a lot of water. Because when you do ayahuasca, for example, you puke and you have diarrhea. And they say, oh, it's normal.
Yeah.
But if you clean before, you don't have to go to a traumatic purge. Because
It's not as bad, yeah.
it's really traumatic.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, so then you, when you're on the third day of your cleanse, or fourth day of your cleanse, because your body's not gonna be in touch, you're gonna be more relaxed, more used to that, you start writing letters of intentions to the people in your life. You don't have to be people, doesn't have to be people that wrong you, just people in your life. And apparently, in this cleanse, you're gonna know who you need to write this letter. And then if you do weed or any type of, you need to stop doing any of that. Yes.
Yeah.
So if you smoke, I love it. Some of my friends. By the day 5, no, nothing. You're gonna be losing your
Mhm.
Yes, you're gonna be in a big, very vulnerable state, and that's when you start losing your energy. So in my case, was my mom, because she's like a shaman, I guess. But if in your family there's no energy enhancer, I don't know the word in English. You look for one, and when you look for one, things you have to make sure. You need to make sure that the person is gonna lead you doesn't have any goal, for example, no goal, or the clothing, and little things that they. And then after you go to your trip, they cleanse the space constantly. The shaman cleanse with coca leaves and with eucalyptus. They burn eucalyptus. I think when it's San Pedro, they use tobacco. Because it's very tobacco. And after after you come back, you are, I don't know if the word is not allowed, but they recommend that you don't have any social interaction for 72 hours.
Okay.
I don't know why the number 3 is so important.
It's in Trinity.
Mhm. So 72 hours of no social contact and actually no electronics, nothing. Because you are transitioning from a spiritual realm back to civilian life.
Yes.
And
Wow.
then your first interaction, and if your mom is alive, they ask, or the shaman's gonna ask you to be either with your mom or with the most powerful feminine figure in your life. Because you need nourishment after all that.
It's beautiful. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. The no electronics and no social contact.
Makes sense,
It's
right?
really good, yeah. So, how many times have I come out of a journey and have to go right back into
Reality.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons to it, right? Because in my when you go through the process of healing, or even our period, because it's so intense for our bodies, we're not supposed to share. It's supposed to be sacred. It's supposed to. You are allowed to share several. Not know if the word is allowed, but you are. It's better if you share several days later when everything has grounded. So your message is also more clear.
You have time to process it yourself.
Thank you. Jake, sorry, sir.
I was just going to build on two things that you both said. What stood out to me is in integration, there is something we're missing in the United States is a coming of age ceremony. Most people still feel like a kid inside because we've never gone through something that says you are now an adult and it's not just turning 18. And that's really, really powerful because I'm 30 and I just came to my coming of age. I feel like I'm finally an adult. And I was supposed to be an adult 12 years ago. And the second thing I want to build upon is the plain ideology. The language for that's so perfect because if you think you're landed and you're not landed, what are you burning? More fuel. And you're not just sitting on the tarmac, you're not burning fuel, and you can have the assumption that you landed. And if you have the assumption that you landed, like Julio had, and you see like, oh no, you're still burning fuel, you're still in the air. And you could go home thinking that you landed, and you wonder why a week later I'm exhausted, I'm antisocial, whatever that looks like. It shows up differently for everyone. But knowing what that looks like for you to truly be in the hangar and on the tarmac is really powerful. And I think the most powerful thing to create that is what you said, is community. Having someone that can hold you accountable. Accountability is not specifically, you did something wrong, I want to hold you accountable. Accountability is being held accountable to your vision. If your vision is to have a peaceful, happy life, you want people around you holding you accountable to that. And saying, hey, there's this thing that may be holding you back. Are you aware of that? Are you open to hearing more about that? And I just appreciate you for the work that you do. Because clearly you do exactly that. Thank you all.
I'm just building on top of, you know, when I have some insight. Do you have something to share?
Yes, I just want to touch on the amends part that you guys shared. For me, the amend process is so difficult, but it's so vital. You know, it's so important to make amends with, you know, either those that you have harmed or else who have harmed you, and to make peace with them. And it feels, some of it feels impossible, you know. Your parents, like, you know, if your parents really, you know, messed you up, and you gotta make amends with your parents, you don't have to do that. You know, it's not like a natural thing. It's like, what are you supposed to say? But it needs to be done in order for me to heal. You know, I need to make amends, and it's not just my parents. It's dozens of people, and a lot of them aren't alive. So that's a lifelong event I need to make towards that person. You know, I need to live peacefully for that person who passed, and all those people who have passed. You know, and some of them are my head. You know, and that's the difficult part, is the amends for those that are no longer here, and the ones that you really, really hurt and don't want to speak to you. You know, how do you make amends to somebody who doesn't want to speak to you?
I can give you some insight.
It's to yourself. You know?
You could create some rituals. Something that I invite my clients to do is to get a notebook, just like a little baby spiral note or composition book, and write out all of the amends, write out all of the things that you have, the Rolodex that you have, and create a prayer ritual for yourself where you burn it and you're releasing it. You're releasing it to spirit to take it from you, because we're human. Being human is messy, right? So we have to find ways that we can be our own guide and our own guru and create these sacred spaces to release the burdens, because our purpose here is to be in joy. That's your soul's purpose, is to be in joy. So if you're carrying around all these burdens of things that have already happened, there's nothing you could ever do to go back and change any of it. Nothing, but you're letting those things create your future or be a part of the energy of your future and your present, right? So finding some different things that you could do where you're releasing it, like it's done. All those things are already done.
It's a big one that I continue to see over and over. So, and part of the research that I did for this, I was looking at all the scientific journals and what are the doctors saying? What are these super qualified people? What are they saying about this? And what is the data saying? And I find it so fascinating, right? I find it so fascinating that almost every single publication I saw mentioned journaling as their reflective practice, as their integration practice. And I thought that was really fascinating. For me, journaling is relatively easy, but I know that for a lot of people it might not be.
It's very hard for a lot.
But it doesn't have to be journaling, right? I've also done like the video journal where you'll like, hit the record on and just kind of talk to yourself and talk it out, or maybe like a voice note and just kind of talk it out while I'm walking the dog and just kind of, and then I can hear myself and I can hear where I'm getting stuck, But whatever that is for each person, it might be writing, it might be video, it might be talking to your partner, or whoever it might be. But obviously, asking for that consent, asking for them to hold space for those heavier things for you to process. And also, it can be such a personal experience that we don't want to burden, let's put it that way, sometimes our closest people, because that's work we have to do ourselves. So to each their own, but definitely some sort of intentional, reflective practice is huge in integration.
Especially what happens so often, and I think that you can also speak on this. A lot of veterans who are coming in with PTSD were realizing that it really is stemming from other traumatic events. So I worked at a psychedelic study, and we did psilocybin and MDMA for veterans. And so my job was to make sure there was ethical practices. And we saw something like 86% of the veterans that were coming in who were diagnosed with PTSD through their ceremonies, it was really stemming from their childhood or their past way before that event that took place. And then realizing how those situations have really manifested through their career when they were in the military.
Yeah.
So
Compounding it,
Sure.
expanding the trauma.
yes, trying to find a way to really release, but not really knowing how, So I always say, like, I manifested being a teenage mom. And how I manifested doing that was because I wanted to find control when my mom was a teenage mom. Like, oh my gosh, I don't know, so much chaos. So then when I became a teenage mom, it was almost like me reliving, but trying to do better, And then Source said, oh no, this was the course that was supposed to happen. Doing better is actually embodiment of that, not replaying. So that's beautiful. So what you articulate yourself there. So
I totally agree with the PTSD coming before, and then like war just elevates it, and so it's already there, but then you have something to blame on because you don't know what it is that you're traumatized from. I had trauma going into the military for sure. Most people do. If you join the military, you're an idiot. You're just a patriot. Whatever.
There's something going on there.
Yeah.
It's whatever it is.
Yeah, there's something going on. You gotta be a little loose to head to join the military, and especially for 6 years. 6 years, you can throw over 6 years of life, but the trauma definitely comes before your war, and you hear, soldiers have PTSD, and it's just something to blame on. So, yes.
So realizing that the trauma is not from when you were in the military, but really before that, learning how to integrate that and make an amends with that. And, usually what happens when we're a child, guess what? We don't understand emotions. We don't understand what anger or happiness or sadness. We just have these feelings and we're like, whoa, why do I feel this way? I know I feel overwhelmed and I don't like this, but I don't have a name for it. So usually what happens in these psychedelic, experiences, people are able to, they're like, man, I feel like when I was a child and man, I was really angry and sad and nervous. Like even in some of the ceremonies that I sat through, I realized that I do remember times when my parents argued and how unsafe I felt. So it's like so many times in our bodies we felt so unsafe, and learning how to find this as a home and creating safety in our bodies for ourselves. And that's like the integration at the root of everything that we want. The underlying emotion is, I don't feel safe to do that. I don't feel safe to speak my truth. I don't feel safe to get a promotion. I don't feel safe to be seen. So then finding that safety for ourselves, implementing that safety. So we're ready to really claim what we want. I was having to take a deep breath with you guys.
So going through the stages of integration, sometimes they can seem a little too structured. Like some of these kind of blend into each other. Sometimes it's like they're out of order. And as I look at them, I can identify ways that I've worked through these, and I can see myself in some of these processes. Brian, I'm feeling called to talk about stage 4, like remembering how to feel better than you ever thought, and considering how much joy you can tolerate without feeling overwhelmed. That's, I remember this happens almost every single time I integrate psilocybin or I interact with psilocybin is I'm reminded of how much joy and love there is to hold within ourselves. And it's like the gap of that is overwhelming to me, right? And it's always work to be like, well, I have to remember that there's more love there for me to accept. Are there any stages that call out to you or that you can recall an experience with?
Stage 1.
If there's any stage that is speaking to you, that calls out to you, that you can recall an experience with.
So if you said stage 1, what immediately pulls to me is you haven't really processed that during that ceremony. You have no idea what is going on, because what happens during plant medicine or just even breath work, it's very poetic and unique to you. So sometimes it's like, yeah, I saw this dog, and the other person's like, okay, they don't know how to hold that. I didn't see a dog, but there's a dog there. But it's like, okay, so what was going on with the dog? What color was it? Was he angry? What was going on? So that told me you really need to understand your
It's very temporary as well.
Well, because that's the psychedelic glow,
Yeah.
right? So when the psychedelic glow blows away and you're like, man, I feel like crap again. Yeah, it's your body saying you need to integrate, but making sense of the journey, and writing that out or talking to someone about it is really going to help you, because the qualities of an integration coach that are important is someone who's going to be present with you, who's going to listen to you, and who's going to be curious. So, but okay, yeah, I was in a field of a garden, and why were you in the field? How did you feel in the field? What was going on in the field? Was there anything else in the field? Was there abundance? Was there air? Was there trees? Because all of those things are gonna string a memory or a chord of your life experience, and it's like gonna give you this freedom that you're looking for. We have to look deeper. It's not superficial. Plant medicine is not superficial. For years, I questioned why all my ayahuasca journeys have been in my home. And it's something that we don't even pay mind to, right? Like, oh yeah, it's just in my house. No big deal. Well, that was where the most challenges and hardships have ever been. So of course I've been in that home. So for me, it was important to remember that part of my journey, because I can make amends and say, that home is gone. I'm not in that home anymore. But that's only a part of my integration that I would only understand. So I think it's really important for you to get integration and make sense of what happened in your ceremonies, because I think that's going to be part of the missing pieces that you're really looking for, and not, let's go on an adventure, let's do this, let's do that. Like, it's to our demise, stepping away from consuming and stepping into creator.
Yeah, I'm gonna go hard next month when I start getting paid. So I get paid on the first every month, and like the last week is really always difficult because I'm a shithead and I go. And but next month I'm going hard. I'm going super hard.
Well, I'm going to hold you accountable, and I'm going to push you even further. Integration starts right now.
Yeah.
Right now, because there's people here, obviously, Julio, there's a lot of people in the community who's willing to support you and lend out an ear. And I know I would be willing to lend out an ear and say, oh, what is that? What's going on there? Oh, that's cool. And it's forcing you to be curious and think more about what's going on. So lean into that and receive, because the hardest thing is receiving, especially when we don't deserve that we're good enough to receive. So here's permission, and here's the reminder that you are worthy, that you are loved, and you are supported. Just keep your arms wide open and receive that, because that's the only thing you're missing. Just open up.
I'm also open for that, to support you with that. There's also keys of doing things with your physical body too. Because that's another thing that we get disconnected from our physical bodies, from all of the plant medicine. And so coming back into practices of embodiment, feeling your own body, grounding, having your feet or your body on the ground, drumming, singing, dancing, moving your body. If you're working through a lot of anger, screaming, hitting, like going into the ocean and dragging your hands through.
I punch too much.
So maybe using singing would be a really great thing for you. Also taking a broom to, like a broomstick to your bed, throwing axes, going to a rage room. Have you done that?
I have.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah,
It's amazing.
I would deserve.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways that you can move that energy. Singing would be another really powerful way for you to consistently be discharging.
Right. Yeah, thank you.
Because if you're not processing those emotions and you have all that anger inside of you, it's just sitting there.
I just watch like comedy and try to make it, like try to laugh and forget about my truth. And it's like,
Not your truth.
yeah,
I'm gonna stop you. That's not your truth.
well,
That's your past. You're like, to forget my truth. No.
well, it
beautiful past.
is part of it, regardless. It is part of it.
He's
Yeah.
experiencing the anger in this moment. So you have to find ways that you can discharge in a healthy way the anger that you're feeling. Because anger is just an energy. It's like vanilla ice cream. It's just a flavor of energy. Anger is the catalyst for change. Anger is a very powerful emotion if you're using it in a constructive way and you're not being destructive, right? There's a lot of ways that you can discharge anger, and that will elevate your spirit. You will release that energy from your body, and then you will feel joy. And you will feel it longer after the ceremonies.
I didn't mean to take up this whole.
No.
Take space.
I have something to add to that. The word emotion stands for energy and motion. That's where that comes from. So any of your emotions like anger, when you feel that, you have to do something to release it, not watch comedy to like shove it to the side. Like whether it's taking a broom to the bed to just move that emotion out, just like we said, purging in plant medicine is anything that's getting your like trauma or energy out. So whether that's ayahuasca, throwing up, or whether you're dancing, singing, crying, anything that's moving that energy out rather than like masking it.
I cried today,
That's
Yeah.
great.
but I shared something. And, I didn't like the response I got, but that wasn't what made me cry. It was the fact that I had like an epiphany, because yesterday I got shot up with Ativan. I was fucking on cloud nine, and I felt amazing. I was high as a kite. Because my heart rate, I went to the hospital because I had like stomach bug. Well, I went to the VA, and they hit me with Ativan because my heart rate was like 120 or something. My heart rate was through the roof. So they need to calm me down, so they gave me Ativan. And I was loaded all last night, and a little bit when I woke up this morning, I was still. And I had an epiphany, and I was like, you know what? My biggest regret, one time I punched my father in the face. And he didn't deserve it. And he had no idea it was coming, so I knocked him out. I was on steroids. I was a young kid. I was fit as a horse. I was an athlete. I came home one day. My father said something to me that I didn't like, and I was like, "Let's take a walk." And because he was sitting in a chair, like trying to lecture me and shit, and I was like, "Let's take a walk. I don't want to hear this shit." And when he stood up, I just got back and boom, I hit him as hard as I could. My father, who raised me, he did everything he could to provide for me. And I hated him because he wasn't there for me, because my brother had cerebral palsy and all the attention was on him. And it was like I wasn't even there. So I was on my own and doing crazy, stupid shit because that's what you do, when you have no guidance. And I ended up punching him, and I feel so. I actually got a text on my mother today, and it was my father on my mother's phone, and I was like, hey, because I called my mother last night when I was all loaded, and I was talking to her. I was like, and I just said, hey, did you tell Dad about the condition I was in last night? And then my dad texted me. He's like, call me, and I'm like, I'll call you later, because I wasn't ready to talk. And so I'm gonna call him after this and make amends. It's just an amends that I need to make. I feel horrible about that. I feel horrible about a lot of things. War, tortures me every day, but punch my father, that's a whole different story. Like that's just evil.
Can I ask if you were open to a kind of feedback?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I asked that you really look at, if you're going to make amends, that you allow that to be in your past, and you don't allow it to be in your present and in your future. Because taking ownership over your past is one thing, but letting it still haunt you after that is really real. A lot of people can make apologies, but not allow themselves to be cleansed. And I just want you to really look at that.
Well, however he takes it, I mean, he's changed. He's not the angry, he's older now. He's not the same person. He's changed a lot. So I think he'll be, open and willing to hear what I have to say.
And also, if he's not, that's not about you.
Yeah,
As long
exactly.
as you come from a place of full ownership, accountability, and humility, it doesn't matter how anybody responds. You get to walk home and know that you shared yourself, and no matter how that goes, I still invite you to put it in your journal, put it on paper.
Right.
That's all.
I got it.
Okay, so your turn, please.
Yeah, it all fit together because I was like, I want to talk about stage 5.
Awesome.
Just keeping the memories in the past. From my own personal experience, it ties into what you were saying about letting things go. And it's like, when things come up from my childhood trauma, for me, I always would try to base my joy and peace on solving something. Whether it's my mom or my dad or my brother or things from my past, or like, oh, I have to talk to my dad and ask for forgiveness, and then I'll be okay. But that's not really, for me, it was not the answer. It's really leaving those memories in the past, because those emotions we're bringing in only exist in our own heads. That happened in the past just years ago. It's accepting things for what they were, and where's the lesson in that? Now you can treat your dad with love rather than fear of, I wronged you in the past. And that's the place where I really got stuck. Over the years, where when things came up with childhood traumas or things from the past, is trying to fix things. I was like the fixer, rather than just accepting things for what they are and letting them just be. It's cleansing our hearts and our minds rather than fixing things in the external world. It really made a difference. So.
I feel like in stage 5, that's usually where people get stuck, and that's the source of suffering, when you're constantly in the past. Oh my gosh, I did this, I wasn't good enough. Oh my gosh, all these things, I wasn't a good kid. Oh, and we force ourselves to say that we're the same person. We don't have to do that. Again, that's suffering. We're choosing to take ownership when today's a new opportunity to change that. So,
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
And just in general, something along my journey, and it was like a huge revelation for me actually that came in strong last January. It was like, I'm like, I don't know how to figure that out. But shame and guilt, those frequencies of energies, when we shame and guilt ourselves for things that we've done wrong in our past, as
especially when we know we can, if the fact that you're hurting over it today means your heart is pure. If you weren't hurting over it, then there'd be a problem. But you have remorse. So when you beat yourself up and you cause shame and guilt on yourself, you're dropping your frequency into a lower frequency, one that's not going to help you actually take the next step to solve the problem, to move forward. Because how can you even be motivated to do something when you're in the frequency of shame and guilt?
Yeah.
So really looking at yourself and forgiving yourself for your humanness, your human experience. Every single one of us is fucked up.
I know, true, respectfully.
So like I have to like literally look in the mirror. I'm like, I know that that's not you. I know you have a good heart. I know that you care, and I know that you feel bad. It's time you forgive yourself. And it was when I finally forgave myself, and I was like, I just bawled crying. I almost threw up when I started realizing I don't have to feel that if I don't want to. And when you don't anymore, you're like, it's literally a button. You can switch it off if you really want to. We think it's hard, but it's a button. Inside it's like, boop, no more shame and guilt.
Yeah.
All right. And you should.
And at first it takes practice. You might have to switch it off every day, multiple times a day, get in there and switch that button off.
Yeah.
We think it's hard. We overcomplicate processes of energies and emotions that are in us, and we think, even for me, there's energies in me, and I'm like, why can't I feel it. It's like, but I know it's just a button.
Thank you, guys.
And of course, I'm all about alliteration. My business is Steeping Sensei. My podcast is Water and Wisdom, and we're here to talk about integration. And what did I say earlier? It was not intimacy. I forget what it was, but inspiration. Integration can create inspiration. Integration takes intimacy because it takes intimacy to be vulnerable in this space. And the biggest thing for me in my journey is integration is a sense of identity. And when somewhere between step 1 and 5, we stop identifying as bad and wrong because of what we did. And because what happened is in the past is not who you are. And creating a distinction between who you are, let's get come up in your language. And it happens for all of us, whether it's out loud or in our heads. And I thank you for being vulnerable out loud. Because our past is who we are in our heads often. What we have done is who we are in our heads often. And I invite you into the space that's not who you are. Never was, never will be. And the more you create the distance between the distorted reality of that being who I am and the truth of I'm a being of pure light. My body is made of stardust. I am vibration. I am energy. And that's where somebody mentioned speaking truths to yourself. I think it was you, where I am statements are sometimes not quite enough. And that only focuses on one particular part of our energy. But I am is so much more than just the words I am. And our identity is all encompassing. So it's an ever-changing thing for you to try to say, I am the things I did, is basing all of the foundation of your identity on fallacy. Because you are so much more than that.
That's the yin-yang.
Yep.
We need the black, and you wouldn't even know what the light is if you didn't have the dark. You wouldn't even know what the dark is if you didn't have the light. So it's like,
Yeah, proper integration makes you look back at your trauma and be grateful for it. And that's mind-boggling. That one of the things I'm most grateful in my life is psychotic abuse, like court level abuse where I almost died. And I'm so grateful for that. Because moments like this where I get to remind people that you are not what happened to you and you are not what you did.
Switch over to another page for that. So I got stuck in stage 3 a lot. So I feel like I'm constantly, I'll have some sort of experience and I'll kind of maybe let it slide, and then it'll keep coming up and up and up until I get to the point where it's in my face and I have to do something about it. And maybe I feel like I learned it for them. It's like it has to be in my face and taking over and completely like putting me to the floor in order for me to like recognize here we are again and I need to actually do something.
And I feel like that's somewhere in like stage 3, somewhere around there. So I don't know, I guess I need to better identify the importance of these things, and to not invalidate my past self who decided this was important.
What does that mean?
So like, okay, maybe I let something slide either for myself or someone around me or something. But somewhere it's affecting me in a way. And I'll keep doing that until my body's like, you're not okay with this, you need to do something.
So like respecting
So it's
the
like
boundaries.
Yeah. And so it's like, I want to identify these before it's screaming in my face.
So what are we afraid to say because you're talking and all this is.
Oh my God,
So
it's
like,
insane.
Right,
Like,
it's like voice. It's
even
like,
this on your throat, like, is that a
she
yantra?
always has a choker on. Always.
Girl, it's all about that. I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
interrupt, but I was like,
Right?
oh my God.
Yeah.
Are you guys together? Okay. Girl, first of all, I want to invite you to inquire why are you wearing those? Because it feels to me energetically like a block.
That's funny because they popped up on me multiple times.
So that's another sign, like you're getting the signs. So just pay more attention. Right. It's called the Joker. Is that what you said? It's like choking you out. So, and I also noticed that you got really flushed when you started talking too. So singing would be a great thing for you.
And she could sing.
And I do actually, sometimes I do songwriting.
Without having on them. It's beautiful. Spirit is screaming through me right now. I'm being really calm too.
I sometimes do songwriting, and it's crazy to see what I end up writing by the end because it's stuff that I needed to hear. And
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it.
All of the songs, every song I write is everything I need to hear. It's my own medicine. But you using your voice, thank you. You using your voice, even I have like meditation I can airdrop to you before we go with it's a chakra bell thing. I shared it, I use it in my training and I use it with all my students. I use it for myself before clients. It clears the central energy channel. It also really helps you to tune your throat chakra and to open that space and to be able to articulate yourself and to be heard. To be heard, because that's really what's underlying all of that is you having this space now where it's time for you to be heard. What you have to say is important and valuable. So it's just learning how to articulate yourself, where to find the words, how to do it in a way that you get your message across and it's felt.
And even I need to understand what that is. So
Yeah, you're growing into yourself. We're all growing into ourselves.
Well, you got this. You know, you got this. You already know what you need to do. You already know. Because that's very good advice.
Thank you. The coloring, and as soon as you took that thing off, your coloring went back to normal.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's like blockage. You were like immediately red there.
That's wild.
I was gonna ask the growing pains. To me, it's like a two-sided thing because growing pains for me can be, traumas that come up for us during ceremony and plant medicines, but also like just truths and just downloads that we receive. Our physical bodies are not like ready to receive those. We're just, that's why we feel these painful. We literally feel pain
You feel the
because we have
trauma.
a certain level of awareness.
Yeah.
Traumas or truths that we're not ready to just expand into. So it's really just allowing those to exist. you know, for me. Just accept the trauma that came up, accept the truths that you're learning, and just learning to expand your body into it, you know, because yeah, it is painful, you know, and it's could be depressing. You want to isolate yourself, and it's like growing pains are real, you know. You can physically feel them.
You can physically feel your traumas, especially if it's a new memory. You can feel the physical effects as if it had just happened. Acupuncture, body work, fascia work, all really awesome ways to help your physical body to process all of that stuff. Because once it comes online, it can be very overwhelming, just like you experienced it. But then you're in trauma response.
What's fascia?
Fascia is it's right underneath the skin. It's like when you cut a chicken and there's that white stuff underneath. That's what's underneath our skin. Like when you cut yourself, there's that white stuff.
You cut your skin?
No.
Okay.
But it's where there's the energy field is in there. So when you're getting acupuncture and acupressure, it's going into the fascia.
I actually wanted to add what you said, which is absolutely true. And I related to what you were saying before, because I feel like sometimes in our friends or community and in their effort to help us or to help us reach our full potential and ourselves, we accelerate the process, you know. In my opinion, or it's going to be a different opinion, it has the same message, but it's the opposite opinion. We were just talking about this. How when we are kids, you know, we are more joyful. When we grow up, when we are growing up, we start losing a little joy and we become more anxious. And we try to fix everything about us because someone told us it's wrong. Mm-hmm. So if you, for some reason, feel that you need to wear a choker because you like it, maybe you are not ready to talk. You're not ready to. And it's okay because like he said, you know, growing is painful and growing takes time. And I do believe we are our past and our present and our future. In the movie we both watched Inside Out, Joy is trying to take all the bad memories, all the bad actions, all the time she was selfish, she was mean, and throw it to the back. And throw it to the back. Joy, right? Keep her happy because what happens when someone sees you sad? Don't be sad. When someone's crying, don't cry. There's not, you know. So that's joy, right? Because we're supposed to be joyful. We're supposed to do the best for us. But no, I don't think we have those tools when we are even at this age that we keep acquiring those tools in time. But at the end, because of what happened, I don't know what happened in the movie. I don't want to tell the movie, but she got all those memories back, all those memories back when she's being selfish and manipulating with her parents, and they create a different world of this person. And at the end, I believe the message of the movie is that we're supposed to remember and to embrace every part of ourselves, the selfish and the giving, the loving and the healing, because we need that darkness and the light to be human. If we were all light, we were already ascended. We were all dark, you know. I believe this human experience is a constant growing pain, and it's a constant labor. We are all pushing and pushing and pushing. Relax. Okay, this feels better. And then you push again, and then you push again, and then you finally deliver. You know, and you meet your creation or your creator, and I think that's my take on that. I used to use chokers, but I still do. And even though I'm comfortable talking, every time I'm about to talk, my hands sweat. Even though I'm very comfortable with English, I doubt every single word. And even though I project, you know, that, I'm still struggling with, my accent. You know, accent. My head. So, but it's not that I change. I'm still struggling with it, and it's every day is an effort. And the people that know me know I never talk, right? I never share. This is the first or second time that I am actually sharing.
Thank you so much.
I just want to kind of go off. Really,
Yeah,
let's all over those specific.
Yeah.
Let's recommend that movie because
Yeah.
we watched
Inside Out.
Inside Out.
It's so good.
It's amazing.
Highly recommend.
And watch the first one
What's
first.
the book?
Inside Out. It's a two.
Yeah, first one was good. Two is really about it's okay to feel and consciousness and your sense of self. From Disney Plus, Inside Out too.
Disney Plus shit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Watch Man Order.
Really quick.
Yes.
Please.
I'll get it on.
Using your voice is a vulnerable thing. It's a very vulnerable thing. And it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice to speak your truth and to find the ways that it will land with other people. I feel like everybody needs to journal. It's a good starting point for sure.
And don't be scared because I see your body like now you're closed up and you're like, oh no. No, it's fine. You're great. Don't worry. And to the point of Lola, when you said the voice in the back of your head saying, oh, your accent. I'm like, whose voice is it? It's your own voice. Can you close your eyes for a second? And I'm gonna ask you again, whose voice is that?
I'm really harmonize.
Yeah. And where is that when you hear your accent? Where do you feel that in your body?
In my hands.
In your hand.
A lot of my emotions come to my hands because I have what is it called? I don't know. Yeah. So so a lot comes, and I never knew until very recently because when I was a kid, I don't know if I was the bravest, but for my group, I was the bravest. So I always remember seeing my friends doing this, they got nervous, and I wanted to hold their hand because they got nervous. So I recognize sweaty hands and goes. So now when I'm feeling as a grown up, I'm like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Simple circle.
And I think it's just finding what works for you, or any of us, because it doesn't. Journaling is great. I can't journal. I don't read books. I have a library of books I want to read, but I read the first chapter and that's it. So it's like whatever works for you. I know some of you I usually take are you okay? I'm like, yeah, this is what works. I don't have anything. So just random deep breaths throughout. Use it. Like my medicine's music. My playlist is all just music, all about, and it's like one thing that came up was a song called Ripples. It's by Maya Sahu. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but it's called Ripples, and it's ripples become waves over time, right? So even the little things like waking up and, okay, now we go. But you did something for yourself, and that's going to create a healthy habit. That's going to create waves, positive waves. So it doesn't have to look so grand and like, oh, I don't journal. I'm not good enough because I don't journal. No, do whatever feels good for you. Find what the joy is, what aligns with that joy, and repeat that, and do it more, and do it more often.
And different tools are going to work for different seasons.
Yeah.
You could love journaling and then not journal for 2 years, or same with any of these things. You just have a basket of them.
Yeah.
That you can pull from.
Oh, you got a basket.
Yeah. Try this.
You will work.
We don't actually have the basket. That makes me think that if you're new to integration practices, then you should literally get a basket and just throw a bunch of integration practices that you're open to doing in it. Because if you're not going to create action because you don't know which one you want to do.
Right, it's having
It may feel like it may feel like, oh, this is doing nothing.
Oh, it's all right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But consistency, right?
Mindsets can feel very mundane.
There is change happening. It's consistency. We don't always see it. It's like when you plant a seed, you don't see it sprout right away, right? It's consistency with whatever it is you want to do.
Crystal, I wrote something down because I had the same exact lesson. And about 2 years ago, I declared to the universe that I will learn lessons with ease and grace. Because how I articulated it is exactly how you articulated it. Is the lessons were yelling at me. Like, why did I get abused? Because I didn't have good boundaries. And that's so powerful to be in accountability, but not be at fault. Like, I know what happened, why it happened, but I don't blame myself for it. But also, I just have this little saying that the lessons keep getting louder and louder if you don't listen. And they can start as a whisper, and you can create the reality where you listen to it as a whisper. So.
Instead of getting slapped down.
Yes. For sure. Oh, and yeah, practicing non-changing is really powerful for me. Is like what I'm feeling is not bad and wrong. I don't know who said it is, but it's not. So it's like, I'm sad, I shouldn't feel this way. Or I'm angry, I shouldn't feel this way. Sometimes just accepting it makes it disappear entirely. So that's not just for you.
Allowing you're giving it that sadness.
Absolutely.
You know.
Because creating that cognitive dissonance between like, I don't want to be where I am now. Like, well, you're now, sorry. You're welcome. Yeah, thank you.
What needs? I'd like to. We're all chatting. We're all sharing. I'd like to. Yeah. I'd like to invite you to share anything you might think.
I feel like that really resonated a lot with just accepting your feelings and sitting with them. I feel like I always try to just distract myself and put my mindset elsewhere, when in reality, sitting with your feelings and having feelings is perfectly okay and perfectly normal. And I know where that background comes from and where that mindset comes from, so just trying to overcome that is a process. Getting to a place of feeling your feelings is perfectly healthy, it's perfectly normal.
And there's a beautiful awareness that you have because you're like, okay, I know that it's here. And like I told Julio the other day, it's like once you know the light switch is there, you always know when you're in the dark. You already know it's there, right? Like you go into your room, like, oh, it's right there. I know. So coming back to it when you're ready to, but it's always going to be there. And then the next thing will come, and it's like this beautiful evolution that we're all in. So
I feel my emotions very strongly, so being able to step away from that, at least temporarily, to like find the logic behind it as well, I feel like it's very important.
for me, I have, because of like trauma, I need time. Because usually things are very, very fast. So when something is changing, I have to sit and I'm like, oh, okay, this change is happening. Regulate my body. And it's like I'm giving my younger self like the time and space she needed now.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this feels uncomfortable. I don't like it. Okay, we're here. Ground.
Thank you for sharing.
How are we doing, guys? It is 8:00. I'm feeling we go to 8:30, 8:13 currently, go to 8:30. Does that feel all right with everything? Awesome. So last couple things we can go over is what it looks and sounds like, and you know you've integrated because that to me was really helpful. I like to have the tangibles of like, oh, I did it right. And of course, there's no doing it right or wrong, but yeah, exactly. So for me, that was helpful, and it's something that I wish I would have seen or would have been exposed to earlier. And I just wanted to draw attention to that to see if anything comes up as we go through those. Integrating, we've already talked about. Mental space to reconnect with your experience, being able to have material that is relevant to you, getting insight in the experience, spending time silently, spending time in nature, following up on your experience, applying the learnings to your life whenever you can, finding ways to carry those intentions, supportive of others, and essentially making life choices as a result, better life choices as a result. Thoughts?
is one thought. Yeah, they're not better life choices in my perspective, because lessons that you learn from your bad choices are still valuable and never would have happened. They're not necessarily better. That's still comparing it to the past. They're just different. And being in choice about your future rather than being in reaction from your past is not better. It's just a choice.
Maybe healthy or coming up with a different word.
Yeah.
Because there is an elevation, and not to be in comparison about better, but like choosing another word, maybe that like healthy, or just a different word that still is an elevated.
Like a line.
Yeah.
Making
A line.
Yeah.
action.
Yeah.
Makes who you are.
Because you can be oriented towards your past, and if we're talking about alignment, once you orient towards something else, you're in alignment, and you're making aligned choices. I really like that word.
This information, I put it all together for us in one place. If you want more detail on it, Psychedelic Integration Guidebook by Allison McQueen. That's where I got the stages from. And then the actual looks and sounds like, and the cause and effect of it is from Frontiers. So,
That's right here on the bottom, right?
that's right.
Yeah.
I think it's a great time to also thank Julio for really putting us together. So desperately needed in the community, because this is a ripple effect, right? So this small wave is really gonna contribute to our communities. So thank you for everyone for showing up too. So
Yeah.
Shout out too.
Yeah, Ariel, thank you.
yeah.
I do want to share something. I wish I could. One, this was my first ever group session. I've done one-on-one sound baths and first, so this was my first ever playing to a room of people. So I want you all to know this meant the world to me. Thank you so much. And two, I want to touch on something I didn't touch on earlier, but I wanted to when we were talking about water. So our bodies are made up of primarily water. And if you were to pour water in a sound bowl, and then you play the sound bowl, you can watch the vibrations move through the water.
Wow.
And every bowl is a different size, which plays to a different chakra. And so if I were to show you those ripples in the water, that's what my bowls do through your body, and that's how sound healing works from the inside. So it was really nice to get to do that energy work for all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
That's good.
if you let me wash the bowls first.
Yeah.
Sage and
For me,
stuff.
somebody gets apple, I'm like, charge it.
Yeah. Oh, under a full moon.
Oh, yeah.
I have 7 bowls. We could, you know. That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Make some tea with it.
Next full moon, you might want to make
And so, even more to build on top, and one of my strong suits and gifts is to build on top of what someone else says, because I find it so difficult, super tiny tangent, to sit at my computer and write anything that's meaningful. Like, it's meaningful to me, but I can't write lessons for other people alone. And it's almost infuriating, because I want to start a podcast where I teach people stuff. But unless someone's in front of me, nothing. So absolutely nothing. It's for people. So each one of these little tangent lessons is for you individually. So thank you for sharing this. There wouldn't be this reciprocity if you weren't vulnerable.
Somebody is in front of you?
Yeah. I mean, this is actually an open invite to everybody here and anybody else you might know. I've got a podcast studio with 2 seats and 2 mics and 3 seats and 3 mics if we need it. And we can make it happen with more people, but I'd love for you to come over to my space. It's a little bit smaller than this, but we can all be in the space together. We don't have to actually live stream anything, but if we come to a place where there's lessons we want to share with others, it's all set up. All you got to do is show up.
What's the name of the podcast?
They include tea.
Water and wisdom.
Yeah, do they really?
Yeah. But the whole point is the Steeping Sensei. Hey, the Steeping Sensei is not about needing the teacher. This is the teacher. He is the teacher. I'm just here learning. So transformational teach office. Super transformational. So I don't know who else calculus 3 made sense to. But by the time I got to calculus 3, I realized that all the hippy-dippy stuff that people invalidate as hippy-dippy, maybe certain sectors have taken the philosophies a little too far and made it look illegitimate. But by the time I got to Calc 3, that is scientifically proven. This and the water, scientifically proven. They're getting close to scientifically proving these. So it's interesting when we create these realities in our head that these little shifts might not make massive impacts, but it's backed by science. And it's like frustrating.
I mean, like science.
Yeah, and some people like think there's this big gap, but I don't know if anybody here knows Ty Rochford. If you don't know Ty Rochford, you should look him up. He's awesome. But he is a fire spinning flow artist, quantum physicist, and absolutely brilliant. But the way that he and I, on the same day, wrote posts about how they should no longer separate philosophy and science. And we tagged each other in our posts somehow, and we didn't even know that we were writing on the same wavelength.
Wow.
I mean, how often do you text someone who's actively about to text you, or call someone who's like, I was just thinking about you? These transference waves. Yeah, it's crazy. And the more we tap into that alignment, the more these synchronicities happen. That's also scientifically proven. Just when you're, it's a lot of intentionality.
Yeah. I actually wanted to mention something about that. It's really funny because it was actually with Jason one day when he was putting the art here. We were here talking and we're like, we were talking about AA style meetings in general, and we're like, man, you know what really needs to exist? It's like an integration circle of some kind. Like, no matter like if you did medicine or ayahuasca, or maybe you had a profound meditation or whatever, just something where everybody can come and get together and like integrate, because it's like very few people out there can really hold space for all the stuff that can come through, with these things. And I was like, man, I've never even heard of that before. That's genius. Oh my God. Talk about collective consciousness. Like within 2 weeks, I got Roxy reaching out to me for integration thing or whatever, and then you guys reaching out to me for an integration thing. I'm like, I've literally never even heard of this stuff before. And I was like, so it's collective consciousness, and we're all kind
Call
of
it
in the
IA,
same.
Integration Anonymous. I love the conversation style. It's very light.
Yeah, so it's great. Change happens in conversation. Whether that's you being able to have conversation with yourself, like you were talking about, being able to look in the mirror and have that conversation, but change and transformation happens in conversation. So thank you for hosting and holding space. Thank you for the space.
Absolutely. And integration is for any life experience, positive, negative, or neutral. But when we're talking about these experiences that can really challenge our egos and our beliefs of ourselves and our life, that's when integration is the most, and that's when it yells at us to integrate. So that's why we talk about it in the psychedelic container. But really, any experience that we have can require us to go sit down in the journal, go be in nature, go talk to somebody about it. And it makes me think that, I have to integrate from this experience. How am I going to go home and apply this now? And how am I going to tell Ariel's my upstairs neighbor? How am I going to tell Ariel to, incorporate little bits of this into sound healing? So yeah, I hope that we can all take something here with us, because we do make waves, and it's no accident that collectively we're whispering to each other that we need it.
Mm-hmm. Vibration is racing.
Yeah, doesn't it feel good?
I just want to say that I'm grateful for these past few months. I met a lot of really good people. Before that, I moved in with Ariel a couple months ago, like maybe 2 months ago, and since then, she introduced me to Julio, and Julio introduced me to Jake, and a dozen people, and I used to surround myself with criminals and bad people. And now I get texts from people who I changed my number. I did everything I could to get rid of those people. I changed my number once, and somehow people got it. Changed my number again. So I changed my number like 3 times in the past 2 months.
Wow. Awesome.
To get rid of negative people in my life.
Thanks for being so committed.
And I met so many good people, and I just want to say I'm grateful, Crystal. Just so many good people who really give me hope, you know, give me hope that there is good people, because I didn't know good people. I knew bad people. So I was, in turn, I felt like a bad person, but I wasn't. I just was surrounded by bad people. And I did some bad things, but it was for profit, you know, like I mean, I need to make a living, and I was doing bad things, but whatever. That's irrelevant. But I just want to say that I'm grateful for these past few months and meeting, you know, such beautiful people. Because you're all so fucking beautiful. You're all
Beautiful. Thank you.
Especially you. I really don't share. I don't share. Like I don't. I'm never open. I'm very closed. But in spaces like this, I feel comfortable. And I'm sorry for taking up so much time. But you know, like I just have so much to get out that I'm not able to, because I never feel, you know, like safe to share shit because people don't understand. But you guys are so loving and caring, and I'm just so grateful that I'm able to be a part of something like this.
I remember. I have an interesting and opposite experience from what you have that I'll share kind of later, but I was surrounded by some of the best people on earth. I would go to the Delray Ground Circle and meet the coolest people, and I didn't realize the amount of power around me at any given moment because I was so surrounded by it. And what I was going to say is you were steeping like tea in bad people. And A, forgive yourself for the things you did to survive.
Yeah.
And
that I've already done.
B, keep surrounding yourself with great people.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because it took me going through trauma while being surrounded by some of the best community in the world to actually start reaching out to them. And I was surrounded by all the coolest people, and I had their phone numbers, and I'd see them at the drum circle, and I'd act happy. And I would be happy in those moments because I was surrounded by love. And it wouldn't be a lie when someone said, "How are you?" and I say happy. But I knew that I wasn't telling all truth. So to be surrounded by all the best of the best, it's where that yin yang really comes into play. So you don't have the duality. Me going through abuse made it so I get to experience my life fully. And the darkness is part of how we experience the light. So thank you for sharing. And you're not taking up too much space. I don't know what plays in your brain, but anyone who gets to sit here silently and listen to your story is learning something from you.
The wound is your medicine. The wound is your medicine.
8/28 is my birthday. The time.
You guys share.
Wait, two things. You said Ty who?
Ty Rochford, ROACHFORD.
Yes. Closing.
Yes.
I invite us to stand, connect with our hands.
Oh, can we like just chit chat for 20 seconds?
Yeah.
18, 17, 16.
Roman finger. You guys should see it. It's sideways.
And purple.
And purple. Yikes.
I would also like to open for anyone who is willing to give me your phone number at the end of this. I would love to befriend all of you.
We're gonna dance 3 ohms and then
Left hand up, right hand down.
left hand up, right hand down.
I'm so sorry.
Left hand is our receiving side, so we have it facing up to receive, and the right hand is our giving side. So left is our feminine, right is our masculine. Relax your hands. Find softness.
3 ohms. Exhale.
Shanti, shanti, shanti. Oh, peace, peace, peace be with each one of you in your hearts, in your smiles, and your footsteps.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Any matter, so keep her
You That's why you get the spending in your day. That's why you teach my training. You are a very powerful.
Just wanted to make one more announcement for all of you. Appreciate everyone's energy in the space. This is Ecstatic Living Florida, Vanessa, Alexis, and we have tons of community events going on. So there's the website, we have the WhatsApp, we have a family constellation going on tomorrow, Sunday, a free circle clothing swap, something different. You know, want to switch out, your clothes and exchange. And we have the twins' birthday, October 4th at Casa Plana Bliss. There'll be DJing and many other events. But besides that, just community, continued growth. You know, anyone who wants to facilitate in the space, it's open. Bring events, tea, integration, share our magic. Reach out to us. So,
here. Do the thing, walk the event. I'm here.
Yeah, it's all the information down there. Different things.
So there's the WhatsApp.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you don't
And then also bring in your
You guys are all into right now. Oh yeah.
So amazing. Thank you.
Anybody who's going to go party is welcome to come to my house. Just saying. It's only about a quarter mile down the road.
Where's still like all
Yeah. People having like great experiences, we will all change. Yeah, and you were all like
Gotta make sure we're all in it.
We're all there?
Watch your fingers.
I like that we can see what it looks like.
Another one, another one. Your fingers on your side.
Show us the picture before we move.
Everybody go up yourself.
Doing this boy on his first ayahuasca journey next week. Some love. What day?
It's Sunday to Sunday.
Oh, for me.
Yeah,
Where are you going?
feels pretty good.
Where?
Caribbean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You on the other side.
Yeah.
In the side.
On the other side of the door.